Hello again, I am Blunty. Ooh, my voice is gravelly. This is my 3 a.m. voice. I'm recording this quite early in the morning because I want to stream this game all day today, and that means getting this video out within the wee hours of the day, so enjoy the morning voice. Hi, how you doing? I'm Blunty, this is Palia. If you've just popped in here and don't know what this is, links in the down below for you. Short version, it's kind of what would happen if Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing, and Harvest Moon were all in a polyamorous relationship and they raised a baby. Oh, and also Breath of the Wild was an uncle that, comes around on weekends to babysit so the other three can go out and dates and whatnot. It's a so-called cozy MMO. Zero pressure, all chill. But yeah, for the type of game that this game is made for, man, it leaves a great first impression. And while for the moment it's PC only, Windows 10 and 11 specifically, we'll talk about Linux and the Steam Deck a little closer to the end of the video. But it is also confirmed to be coming to the Nintendo Switch. Again, no news on the other consoles at the moment, but if the game does really well, it's hard to imagine it not turning up there eventually. And there's no solid date on the Nintendo one either. It's just holiday season this year, so 4 months-ish. But obviously, as you can see, some of us can indeed play it in handheld mode right now. Well, because the new generation of handheld gaming PCs is here, isn't it? And man, is this game ever great for that. Right now, it's only been in closed beta for 2 days, and it hits open beta, giving access to whoever wants it at the end of next week. Now then, let's talk specifically about performance on the ROG Ally. Now, frankly, it's a little less performant than I'd hoped, to be honest, but at the same time, we have to keep in mind this is still beta. The game version is 0.6.2, and there's still some walking to do before we even get to 1.0. And right now, while controller support is still incomplete and not even officially recognized, and the in-game menu for it have no options at all, there is, in fact, some basic native controller support built in. I didn't have to use the Ally's built-in, keyboard to controller mapping thing, or Steam's own controller, customization stuff. It just kind of worked right off the bat. And it's a reasonably intuitive native layout they've got going on here they're playing with. It still needs some fiddling, which is, why they haven't officially released controller support yet, but they're getting somewhere. But there are some problems with the controller support, including several parts of the game, including several parts of the UI and menus and whatnot, that simply do not work at all with the controller stuff at the moment. So if you're playing on a desktop PC, you are still going to need to reach for the mouse every once in a while just to do stuff. But the good news is, in handheld mode on the ROG Ally, you can instead simply use the touchscreen in place of the mouse, and it works pretty good. It's all a bit clumsy still, but you can legitimately have a pretty good controller-based experience right now on these devices. So let's drill specifically into the performance stuff now that you've had a bit of a chance to look at the game running. I had 2 targets in mind when I was doing these first experiments. The first was to hit a 45 FPS average using the standard 15 watt power profile, and I wanted 1080p. Because on-screen text and things like the in-game world chat are just simply much easier to read at 1080p, especially on the 7-inch screen. And it was with all this in mind, I found a mix of high, medium, and low settings to balance out in a range where I got between 40 and 60 FPS in most areas and activities. Settings are on screen for you now. Consider this a starting point for yourself. Feel free to mix and match to your priorities, but personally I found that the shadow setting and the view distance setting in particular were the 2 most important things for maintaining a pleasant aesthetic. Now, we do drop below 40 here and there, but frankly, the gameplay style of this game doesn't really get impacted by that at all. Mostly, I was targeting above 40 for the sake of fluidity and for the sake of the FreeSync Premium function that the Ally has, which really does keep things looking nice and smooth. And of course, FreeSync Premium has the low frame rate compensation, so even if you do dip into the 30s, it still is a lot smoother than you might expect from a regular 30 FPS if you've not experienced FreeSync Premium before. Can't really show you that in captured gameplay like this, but in person, when you're looking at the screen with human eyes, it does look even better than what you're seeing here. The biggest problem area is the main town square, where you'll see closer to 30 FPS on average, even dipping below it slightly once or twice. But again, given the gameplay, the context of how this game works, and what you do in town, that's not really a big problem. It's not a deal killer. The town is just for NPC interactions and shops and whatnot. You know, there's not even any hunting or gathering here, so 30 FPS is not a problem. Psychologically, it bothers me a little bit because, you know, playing PC games at 30 FPS in 2023, what is this, the Dark Ages? But yeah, in truth, it's fine. Now, all of that is at the standard power profile setting. The ally stays nice and quiet, and it stays nice and cool, and it's a very comfortable playing experience. But this game is also the type of game you're very likely to want to settle into for long play sessions. I know this is certainly true for me already. So, while playing plugged in, curled up on the couch or in bed, the standard power setting is fine for that. It is also going to be rather desirous to get this game running smooth on the low power silent mode on the Alley for the longest possible battery only playtime. So for that to work, we have to drop down to 720p unfortunately, and as it stands this game does not include any FSR or other advanced upscaling tech, and I haven't fiddled much with RSR on this yet because RSR is just not as good as FSR, it's kind of a stopgap measure, but you could try that out for yourself as well. It'd probably improve things a little bit visually. But yeah, hopefully FSR and, you know, the related upscaling tech comes along as we move towards 1.0, because it's kind of weird to see a game without it these days, isn't it? And indeed, at 720p on the 7-inch screen, text in the chat box does become a little bit hard to read. So settings-wise, I'll show them to you here. We can target 30 to 40 FPS with a mix of medium and low settings. You can, of course, get more stable frame rates if you set just everything to low. But frankly, the game looks kind of hideous that way. It's really kind of not nice to look at when you turn the shadows and whatnot right down to down below. It looks flat and boring and washed out, and I just don't like playing it like that. So I'd rather compromise a little bit on some visual pleasantness at the cost of a few frames. Not a choice I make in all games. Sometimes the frame rate is everything. But once more, in the low-stakes, low-action gameplay of Palia, it's genuinely fine. And quite frankly, some activities like bug hunting, for example, are just better with like the effects turned on, so you can see the puffs of smoke from your smoke bombs and stuff a little bit easier and that kind of thing. Once more, of course, the biggest problem area is the town square, where you will see frequent dips below 30, even down to 25 FPS, which does bother me, as visually it's a little bit jarring. Even low frame rate compensation from the FreeSync premium stuff can only do so much at this point, but it's not intolerable. Anywhere else in the game, though, including the big wide open areas of the adventure zone, stay above 30 FPS pretty comfortably, and even reaches towards the 40s. Very playable indeed for gathering and hunting and exploration and whatnot, while still looking decently pleasant on the 7-inch screen. Similar thing is true on your home plot if you're, you know, working on your home and your crafting and whatnot. Certainly good enough for the times where I want to curl up in handheld mode to tinker away at the game, and I don't want to be tethered by a power cable. It's also worth noting at this point that this is just, you know, beta week 1 experience. It's only going to get better from here on in. The game has a lot of things to fix still when it comes to the graphic stuff, more, you know, features to build in. Back on my main machine, my main gaming rig, which is currently a 3900X and a 3080 Ti, I can hit all epic settings, 4K native of course, as you might imagine, and I can nail it to 60 FPS easy peasy. But it is over there where I've noticed several issues with the graphics and the settings that are still yet to be fixed. Firstly, rather noticeably, the frame rate stays capped at 60 FPS no matter what I do. Even if I select the uncapped option in the menu, I turn VSync off, it doesn't work. It caps at 60 no matter what I do. I think the VSync option might be broken, actually. I think it just might be turned on by default and the option to turn it off doesn't work. Something, anyway. And the game behaves a bit weird with the mouse when you alt-tab around or have overlays on, like the performance overlay on my ally I was using while recording some of this demo footage. The Windows mouse pointer would sort of roll over that overlay, which I've never seen in any other game I've tested on the Ally. It's really weird behavior. But again, the game is in beta, and this kind of stuff is likely to be fixed going forward, including hopefully some significant efficiency passes on the graphics so we can get even better looking game at these same sort of power levels. And of course the inclusion of things like FSR, XESS, DLSS to help us out as well. But for right now, yeah, totally playable on the ROG Ally, and similarly AMD Ryzen 7840U based CPUs in these handheld PCs that are coming out right now. As for the Steam Deck though, I've not seen much testing around it yet. And I don't have one of my own to test because Valve don't even sell them direct to Australians. But we do at least know the game works under Linux already. Though there are some hoops to jump through to get there, as one of our own community members is digging through right now on their own Steam Deck. They have to do a bit of fiddling. And there is no official support for Linux, so you're not going to get any help from the developers at this stage. But again, hopefully that changes through time as well. They are a new studio, relatively small team, so, they can't do all the things all at once. They're just trying to get the game up and running on a couple of platforms, and then we'll go from there, I suppose. In any case, it's probably safe to assume, even in low power mode on the ROG Ally, it's probably going to still run and look better than the Nintendo Switch version will. Unless, of course, the Palia devs know something about the Switch 2 that we don't. But who knows? Maybe the team doing that port are just super crazy good at what they do. We have seen some pretty shockingly good ports for the Switch after all. So I guess just wait and see on that one. Fingers crossed for Switch users. Hopefully they find a real nice balance. Meanwhile, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you found this useful and or interesting. I am Blunty. Thank you as always to the patrons scrolling up above there. And I will catch you next time.